Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. I'm Sneha, and today I thought as we're approaching the end of 2019, I'll share some of my favorite eye brushes with you. Now, as a makeup artist, I do have a fair share of eyeshadow palettes and a large collection of brushes as well, and I tend to use both synthetic and natural bristles for different kind of products. And since I use such a variety of brushes, it is going to be a mix of brushes. So it's going to be brushes with natural bristles as well as synthetic. So let's get started. So the brushes have been further divided as flat brushes, crease brushes, transition or blending brushes, eyeliner brushes, lower eyelid or detail work brushes, and then of course eyebrow brushes. So let's start with flat brushes. I do have quite a few here, so we'll get through them. But in general, I tend to prefer natural hair bristles when it comes to powder eyeshadows, and I tend to prefer the synthetic brushes for cream products such as concealer or cream eyeshadows. So let's start with the natural hair bristles. These are some of my holy grail brushes. I would probably never be without one of them, which is the ESUM W21. Fantastic size, especially because I do have a smaller eyelid. I mean, I could use the bigger size, which is W23, to pack on eyeshadow on the eyelid, but I just tend to prefer W21 much better than W23 on my eye size personally, but they are fantastic brushes. They're both made of sable hair and they pick up product like no other brush. So these are definitely my favorite brushes when I have to pack on color and I don't have time, or when I know that I do want a good color payoff on the eyelid. So these are hands down my favorite ones. Coming up second is the ESUM G27. Now this is also natural hair, but I believe these are goat hair. So they do have kind of a medium to light kind of coverage when it comes to picking up eyeshadow. So when I want a softer look on my eyelid, I tend to prefer to use this brush instead of the sable brushes. Now some more brushes which are quite similar in size and shape and are made of natural bristles, just different kind of natural bristles. Goat versus another animal, but all of these are amazing for applying eyeshadow on the eyelid. They just differ slightly in terms of how dense they are and how long the bristle is. So this is Refer 02. This is the Hakuhodo B004G. This is the Hakuhodo J242. This is a brush by London Brush Company, brush number 9. It was part of a travel kit. And this is the MAC 239 old brush, which is like a mini version. Then I have a smaller Hakuhodo brush. So in comparison to the other Hakuhodo brush, you can see how much tinier this is. So I do tend to like this for more detail work, or if I'm applying some shade specifically just in the inner corner of the eye, then I definitely reach for this brush. This is their Hakuhodo 2888 brush. And then I also have Smith 256, which is also fantastic because of its shape, as you can see here. It's beautiful to sit right in that socket and also in that inner corner because of that pointed edge, and it applies eyeshadow really nicely. Moving on to some synthetic brushes. I tend to use a lot of these, especially on photo shoots when I'm working with the Danessa Myricks color fixes. So a flat brush to apply eyeshadow onto the lid or anywhere that I want to pack on color is the Cosette D240. So it looks like this. Again, a really nice brush to not only apply the color, but it washes off the cream products really nicely. So that's really important for me. I don't want products sitting in the bristles of the brushes. Two more brushes. These are both by MAC and they are their synthetic brushes. Again, two different sizes depending on how big the model's eye is. So this is 242, which I really enjoy on myself and my clients. And then 252 synthetic is the larger size. And the last flat brush that I would recommend is something I use with concealer. This is a beautiful brush by Mykitco and the number is 0.2. It's called My Precision Concealer. And although it's flat, it's very pinched and very tapered at the end. Don't know if you can tell on camera. So it's really skinny. It's great for those of you who like to maybe do a cut crease with your concealer or even to carve out your eyebrows or under your eyebrows. So that's what I tend to use this brush for. Beautiful shape and good firmness, if that makes sense, for the brush, especially for those kind of work. So those were all the flat brushes. Let's move on to crease brushes. So no particular order, I've just grouped them by how similar they look in terms of the size and the shape. So these are the first three brushes. So I have the Refer 01, this first one. Next is Hakuhodo H2898. And the third one is Goss brush number 6 from his first collection or first launch. So this is what they look like. So they're like the slimmer version of MAC 217, if that makes sense. So as you can see from the side, they are quite slim in comparison to, say, a Goss brush number 18, which on the side looks quite fluffy. So we'll get to those fluffier brushes in a bit, but I do tend to also like these slimmer brushes just to get detail work into the crease, because the tip of these brushes tend to be slimmer, if that makes sense. But of course you can use this on the eyelid as well, but I wanted to save these for crease brushes, and these are three I would definitely recommend. Next I have the fluffier cousins of the previous brushes. So these are 4 brushes right here. The first one is the MAC 217, the natural bristle. This is not synthetic. The second one is brush by Smith Cosmetics, that is brush 235. The next one here is Goss brush number 18, and the last one is Sigma E25. So if I turn them on the side, you can see that these are a lot more fluffier than the brushes I just showed you. So in comparison, this is the Goss brush number 6, and you can see how much slimmer that one is compared to the others. These fluffier versions are good for just blending and applying shades to a larger area in the socket. To the outer V, you can also really diffuse out eyeshadows on the lower lash line with these style of brushes. So I highly recommend having at least one of this particular style. Next, I have slightly smaller and more pointy kind of brushes. Some of them are more domed versus others are more pointy. So these are 4 of the brushes. The first one here is Hakuhodo J146. The second one is Goss brush number 19, and this is from the older collection, so they don't have the white bristles. The one next to it is Goss brush number 17, so that's the newer brushes. And the last one is ESUM S33, which is this particular brush right here. So this is how they vary. In terms of size, I would say the Hakuhodo is the smallest of the lot, but still has a round dome shape to really apply shadow and as well as blend it, especially for the outer V and also crease work and lower lash line work. Beautiful brush. This is also kind of a fluffier, domed kind of a shape, which is the Goss brush number 19, one of my favorite brushes. These two, I would say, have a slight point or tip to the end of the bristles, if you can see that. So that's again good for precise application of eyeshadows, and I do love them both. The one I've been reaching for a lot, even today, is the S33 brush by ESUM. Now continuing on with slimmer brushes. This is again one which has that pointed tip, and this is by Louise Young. This is their LY38 brush. Again, for the same reasons that I mentioned the previous 2 brushes, this is beautiful for pinpoint application. I don't use this brush much for blending. It's more for just precise application, or I may use it to blend just the outer corner or maybe the lower lash line. But generally for crease or transition brushes, I do prefer the more fluffier dome shapes instead of these pointy brushes. Then we have 2 more precise crease brushes. This is the MAC 212. This is the synthetic version. And we also have Mykitco 1.3, which is called their defining crease brushes. Very similar. The MAC one is just a little bit fluffier compared to the Mykitco version, but both apply eyeshadow beautifully on the eyelid, and it's great for, as I said, detailed crease work. Now, one very unique brush, which I really love, is by ESUM. This is the W36, and if you can see that, this particular brush has that beautiful slope on it. So you may think, what do you use this for? It's great to just apply the shade on that slope and just apply it on the outer V. It essentially creates that outer V for you, but you can also flip this brush over. So instead of using it like this, so using the flat side of the slope for the outer V, you can flip it, use the pointy edge in your crease, and then the same slope does the blending work for you. So beautiful shape and very unique, and I would highly recommend you guys to try this brush out. They also have a larger size in the same style. And the last brush in this category is what I use with my cream products. This is by Cosette. This is their D220. Lovely brush to just diffuse out the cream eyeshadows. Next, let's talk about some of the blending or transition brushes that I like to use. So first I'm starting off with the really big fluffy brushes, and then we'll narrow down to some other brushes which are more tapered. So I have 3 right here. 2 of these are by Mykitco, and this third one is the Sigma E35. So let's start with the smallest. Again, it has a more rounded end at the end, so that's why I like to use this for my blending work right here in the crease. These 2 are slightly bigger, and these are my go-to since I've got them. This is the Mykitco Pro 1.15. Beautiful size, especially if you have a lot of space between your crease and your brow bone. You want something large enough to fit and apply and blend shadows quite easily instead of using a smaller brush and going back and forth too many times. So that's why I love this. And then this brush is fantastic. I don't hear a lot of people talk about it, but it's the Mykitco My Ultra Multi, which is 1.7 brush. It looks like a really giant brush, and it's multi-purpose. You can use it for concealer, setting the under eyes, applying highlighter, and all of that. But what I like to use this for is applying my brow bone highlight. So I tend to use matte eyeshadows right here, and that's what I've used it even today for. Beautiful brush. It's really soft. It just diffuses out any eyeshadows. Sometimes if I feel like I've added too much color here and I want to diffuse out the edges, I'll just run it clean without any product just on that edge, and it really softens up eyeshadows. So I would highly recommend something large enough, depending on your eye size, something that fits this area, the brow bone area, and also which is easy to just blend out eyeshadows at this outer corner. Next, moving on to some of the fluffier ones, but something which is more tapered. So I have 2 Wayne Goss brushes right here. This first one is from his older collection. This is 03. And this is number 16. Again, you can see that they are more fluffy styles. And I tend to, again, use these mostly in the socket. I also use this style of brush for applying my contour powder. Actually, 03 has become my dedicated nose contour brush because it's just beautiful to fit in right here. At the same time, blends out the eyeshadows or the contour powder. It's never harsh on my nose. So I really like this brush. And then 2 blending brushes with my cream products are again by Cosette. They seem to be my go-to brand when I have to use cream products. And they make beautiful brushes that are very easy to clean. So these are 2 brushes. This is the S175 and this is the S165. Again, this is a typical brush. It's good for crease work, and this looks pretty big. But again, I like blown out edges, so this is something I would go after going in with the smaller brush. Next, let's move on to brushes that I prefer to use for my liner. So starting off with brushes that have a slope or a slant, so they look like this. So this is the MAC 263 brush. Next to it is the MAC 205. So it's slightly more denser compared to 212, which has more of a give. And this last one has become my absolute favorite, which is the Mykitco Pro 1.17, which is the tiny angle brush. All of these brushes, because they have that slope to them, they're really easy to create that flick at the end of the eye for a cat eye look. But what I also love about them is that they're slim enough to really just apply eyeshadow. You want a tight line, you can apply that right along the base of your lashes. These are beautiful for that, and they also apply powder and gel products really well on the eye. Of course, these can also be used on the brows, especially I prefer the Smith one because it's more dense and stiffer. I do enjoy this brush, which is the 205 for my brow work as well. So these are the 3 brushes I would recommend in this style, especially if you can get your hands on the Mykitco 1.17. Fantastic brush. You can thank me later for this. Next, I have 2 brushes that I can recommend for tight lining. Personally, I like the smaller brush, which is Wayne Goss brush number 8, because on my eyes anyways, I like to really get to the root of the lashes and pack on eyeshadow from the top and from the bottom along my top lash line. So I really enjoy that brush. But for clients, they don't want something too small, which takes forever to get in. So I prefer the Smith 212, which is a larger size essentially. And then lastly, I have the traditional eyeliner brushes to recommend. 4 of them, they just differ in size and thickness. The first one is Hakuhodo I190N5, which is fabulous. What I love about Hakuhodo brushes is that they retain their shape and don't become splayed like so many other eyeliner brushes that I have from lesser expensive brands. So I absolutely love this. I've washed it so many times, but it definitely comes back into shape. And same with the Hakuhodo I007N6, which is like a smaller version. And again, I like to use this for more detailed work after using the first brush. Then I also have two other brushes which are beautiful. This is the Mykitco Pro 1.22, which is called their My Feliner brush. Again, it's a brush that comes back into shape, which is why I really enjoy using it. And then a really fine brush. You can see how tiny and small and fine it is. This is my brush for more detailed work, or if I want a really sharp line at the end, which is the Louis LY24B. Next, let's talk about lower lash line brushes, the brushes I like for more detailed work, such as inner corner, or if I want depth along the lower lash line, so those kind of work. So first I have four kind of blending brushes, I would say, for the lower lash line. So they are relatively smaller compared to the crease brushes that I'd shown you guys. And some of them also have a beautiful tapered end to it. So it's also doubling up as something that can be used to intensify eyeshadows along the lash line. So the first one here is Goss brush number 19. The second one here is Sonia G Crease Pro brush. The next one is Goss brush number 20. And this last one is a Hakuhodo eyeshadow brush. It doesn't have a name or number, but that's about it. So as you can see, they look similar, but hopefully you can see on camera, when I push against the top here, you can see that the Goss brushes have quite a bit of spring action right there. The Sonia G brush really retains its shape quite well. It's quite a firm and dense brush and quite unlike any brush that I have in my collection. So it's really beautiful to grab on product and apply it quite intensely on the lower lash line. While I would say the Goss brushes give a more softer, diffuse look. I mean, of course you can blend in with the Sonia G, but I'm just saying that it's really good for getting good impact quite soon. And again, the Hakuhodo brush is beautiful and very soft. All of these brushes are really soft to go along the bottom lash line. Next up are four more brushes, which are more long and kind of skinnier versions. Again, great for detailed work. So either maybe creating a cut crease, applying shadows to intensify the crease, applying it on the outer V. So you want to create like a cat eye kind of a shape with an eyeshadow, more intensity along the lower lash line, all of these and many more uses. The first one is my Precision Crease Brush by Mykitco 1.20, really nice. And again, it's quite a stiff brush, it doesn't have much give, so really good at packing on color. Next is Cossette 185, so this is my go-to brush when I want to apply or blend out cream eyeshadows in a certain area. It does have quite a bit of give, so it's really flimsy in a good way, but it's good to really buff out an eyeshadow and get a really sheer application. Next is the LY38B, which is by Louis Young. Again, a great brush for lower lash line. And then lastly, I have the Cossette P365, which is more pointy. It's like a large eyeliner brush, but again, good for more detailed work around the lower lash line, especially if you want to create like twiggy looks and stuff. These detailer brushes are really good. And then lastly, for my favorite kind of brushes, these are the really small, tiny brushes. Actually, I have one more to add to it right here. So the first one I want to talk about is the ESUM S31. Beautiful shape and beautiful size to go along the lower lash line. I can also blend out the eyeshadows here and also apply it for a really intense color payoff. Beautiful brush, it's what I've used today as well. Another brush that does very similar function, but except the blending, this is more for application of the eyeshadow quite intensely. This is the brush by London Brush Company. It's brush number 11 and it was part of a travel kit, so that's why it's a small handle. And then these three brushes, this is the ESUM W19. This is a lip brush, but I also like to use it for more detailed work around the eye, either to create some shapes around the inner corner or for my inner tear duct area. And then again, these two brushes, they are absolutely beautiful. You can do so many things with these brushes. The first one is Refer 03 and the second one is Hakuhodo brush, which I don't have the number for. I believe it is the H2890, but I will have to double check. Fantastic brushes. They are really soft to go along the lower lash line, at the same time soft enough also for the inner corner. Beautiful, beautiful brushes. And then lastly, let's talk about some brushes that I prefer for applying brow products. Now, one of them we've already discussed, which is the Smith 205 brush. Really dense and stiff and beautiful to not only apply, say, brow pomades, but also brow powders. Really good brush, especially if you want to create those hair-like strokes. This is the brush to go for. Next is a brush. I don't know if you can find it everywhere, but especially in the UK you can. It's a brush by Barbara Carranza. It's a dual-ended brush. It has a spoolie on one side. Again, it's a brush. It's stiff, but it has more give than the Smith brush. So I really like applying this with powder, and that's something I've used today to fill in my brows with some brow powder. Now, two brushes that I really like to just fill in brows. So they're not more for creating brush strokes or anything. They're just for filling out the brows quite quickly. They pick up product really well, and that's what I like about these brushes. The first one is by Goss. This is brush number 21. Really stiff, really great at picking up product and just filling in the brows very quickly. And this is like a softer version. So this is by Hakuhodo. Again, the brush number has rubbed off, but it says it's J something, but I'll try and put it up on the screen. But it's like a softer cousin of the Goss brush. So I tend to use this in my freelance kits because it's softer, and I tend to use this on myself to fill out brows. And that's it. That's a roundup of all the eye brushes that I really love using. If you have any questions, feel free to leave it in the comment section below. And if you did enjoy the video, please don't forget to hit that like button. But thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you in my next one. Bye!